Hey folks, this should be up and running now. It's my live Q&A. Get your questions in. Doing a live Q&A if you have any questions about board games or my life. My name's Ben Eddings. You're watching Cast the Bones live stream, a live Q&A. Get your questions in right now. I'm going to be including this live stream in the new episode of my show Cast the Bones, where I'll be talking about this cool little board game. Escape the Dark Castle. Get your questions in, and hopefully we can have a little talk about stuff. Okay, got one question coming in now. Okay, my favorite game of the year so far. Well, it's very, very early in the year, but I would say my favorite game of the year so far has probably been Vengeance, which I might talk about a little bit later in a future episode. What's my favorite drink? My favorite drink would have to be, well, this is an interesting one. My wife got me into drinking rosé wine. I'm a big rosé drinker. But since my wife departed, I would say that my favorite drink would have to be probably ginger beer, some kind of nice, independently brewed ginger beer. What age was my wife when she died? Well, my wife was 36 years old. Okay, maybe some more questions about games. How do I feel about counterfeit board games? Well, there's an interesting one. How do I feel about counterfeit board games? Well, I would like to think that in my own collection there are no counterfeit games, but how could we tell? For sure, I hear a lot of talk that it's games like Ticket to Ride, the big ones, where there's a lot of counterfeit versions of those games. I don't know. Buy your games from a reputable source, and I guess you just hope for the best. Anytime there's a lot of money to be made, there's going to be counterfeit stuff. Who are my favorite board game reviewers? Well, that's a good one. Maybe I'll go into a little bit of detail on that.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Rahdo Runs Through, where
You cannot choose who the great communicators of your hobby are. So we should count ourselves really, really lucky in board gaming that we have the people that we do have. Jump on YouTube and you'll find all sorts of commentators talking about board games in that usual style that even I follow or have followed up until this point, sitting in front of board games. I might change that up. It's getting a little old. But this guy Rahdo, I like him. I don't really agree with him in games too much, but he knows his stuff, and he seems like a good guy. I like him.
The game is great fun.
But man, I really love Marco Wargamer. He's just a sweet man who knows his games and is very, very passionate about them. He just gets really enthusiastic about stuff. And he's really smart when he's explaining how the games work. He's a beautiful communicator. And our tastes very much align. I like the games that he likes. He's my go-to guy when I'm thinking of buying a new game. I like him a lot. And every time I watch him, I think, man, I bet his friends love him. I bet his people love him because there's just something about him. We're really lucky to have guys like him, I'm telling you. We're so lucky.
What we have here is a mess.
Hello guys, I am Eleni and welcome to one more.
Cardboard Rhino is one I found recently. I really like it because this lady is broken with the style of the usual board game review. She's usually sitting in some nice places. It looks like she has a nice place to be all the time, which is not the common thing. She's not stuck in some man cave somewhere, no. She's out in the real world, in a real house, doing stuff. And she really knows her stuff too. She's good at explaining how a board game works. Nicely produced clips. And again, a nice person.
Hey folks, I'm Tom Vassell.
And when you're talking about nice people, it doesn't get any nicer than Tom Vassell of the Dice Tower. He's the big guy, isn't he? He's the top man, the main communicator in our hobby, and my God, he's quite an ambassador, isn't he? I've met Tom, you know. I met him at a convention. I'm sure he won't remember me, but he was a lovely man. He's kind. I like him. We're lucky. Because look what video gamers have to put up with.
Oh, black people are being, hard done to, or gays, lesbians.
These are the kinds of people that video gamers have to deal with.
Make light of it.
And I don't know why we get the good ones and they get the bad.
The media wants you to think that, and how it is at the moment, how the media is, the minority, the people who are being, racially aggravated the most are white people.
How gamers are facilitating the rise of the alt-right. Oh my God.
So I want you to think about that. How lucky indeed we are that the communicators that we have are such good people. They seem to have good hearts. And maybe that's why I wanted to do these videos. Maybe that's why I wanted to cover board games like they did. Because I want to be a good person too. I'd like to be seen as a good person.
I'm being asked here about Talisman. Yeah, I do love Talisman. Here it's up here. I'm a big fan of Talisman. I think it's a wonderful game. I think it creates a great adventure. It's very heavily luck based and so on and so forth, and all the complaints that are made about the game roll and move and all of that stuff. But it's a wonderful adventure. I love Talisman.
Escape the Dark Castle is a game that tries to recapture the feel of old fighting fantasy game books. It ties everyone together in a co-op adventure. Sure, you can play it solo, but I'm telling you, it's better with a couple other players joining in with you as you all try and escape. It has a very slim rule book. There's not that much to it, and it's a game that really leans on its own charm to get by. I love the artwork in this game. I really do. I've seen some people say they don't like it, but I feel that it really captures that feel of those old game books. It really captures that old choose your own adventure vibe from those fighting fantasy books, and I love this. Each character has slightly different attributes, and what that translates to is a different die for each character. More symbols for a certain attribute on your die than there might be on the next person's die. It's as simple as that. There are a whole load of items that will give you rerolls and increase your health and stuff like that. Items are very important in this game because it's a very difficult game to get through, and you're gonna need some of these little boosts to get through the rooms of the castle. The castle is not too long to get through. You're only using some of the cards in each run, but man, it's difficult enough. So let's look at how it starts. You start escaping from your cell and opening up a chest to get an item per player. So you start off with something that'll give you a little bonus to get moving. So here's something that will give me a wisdom result on a die at any time. That's good. You're gonna see why that's important shortly. So here's the first room. coming into a small sandy arena. You're going to have to fight this woman in the arena. At the bottom right, you'll see the damage she will do at the end of each round if you haven't yet defeated her. And here, these symbols down the bottom are going to tell you what results you need on dice to beat her. So those first 3 printed there, we lay those out. And that fourth one, depending on the number of players, you roll that number of dice, and whatever randomly comes up, you have to knock that out too. This is how simple this game is. Then you just start rolling your dice, trying to match the symbols. If she survives, she does damage to you, unless, that is, you roll a shield. If you roll a shield, then you don't take any damage. It's a very, very simple combat system, but it's actually quite thrilling when you're doing it along with the other players. When you're doing it alone, a little bit less exciting, but I would say still fun. Of course, not all rooms are about combat. Some of the rooms give you choices. You have to choose as a group or alone what you're gonna do. And really, the game is about working out how much health to expend when you're doing stuff. The game is about trying to limit the amount of damage the group takes as you move through the castle, because you know at the end of the castle you're going to be facing a very, very difficult boss. So it's all about choosing the right character for the right incident, the right choice, the right decision about when to lose health, how much health to lose, when to use your items. A little bit of risk reward in here, and the fight at the end, you're going to be rolling off. I mean, here, for example, all your items are gone before this fight. That's bad news. And then you're rolling and hoping that you're going to survive long enough to take the bad guy out. Now, the game is very, very simple, like I said. But it is an atmospheric game, and I like it a lot. I think it's a game that not a lot of people are going to love. I think some people might not get it. But I do get it. It's just trying to capture that cozy feel of those old game books. And it does it. It does it so well. My wife would have loved this one.
Have I been playing the prototype? Yeah, I've been playing the prototype of Lord of Blank Faces. And I've introduced it to some of my game group too. And we're having great fun with it. It's I would call it a tactical battle game that really asks a lot of you on a philosophical level. That's what I would call it. There's going to be a new version of it winging its way to me. The creator has been in touch and told me that there's going to be a new updated prototype, so I'm looking forward to that. I am all in on that one. Show you something that I love. Something that I love. I love. Let me see now. Show you something I love. Let me think. Let me get something. I love these little guys. These are from. There was a Hammer horror board game. Hammer were a British horror company, made movies back in the 60s and 70s primarily. And there's a board game that celebrates their movies, and the game is bad, but the miniatures that came with the game are just, I mean, they're just fantastic. I love these. These are just wonderful. Terrifying and wonderful. That is, of course, a reptile, werewolf, so on, so forth. So I love something else. Hang on. This knife is something that holds a lot of significance for me. And I've been using this knife, actually. I can't really tell you why I've been using it, but it is a game-related thing. And I've been using this knife because
One of the things, so Job is objecting to his treatment because, of course, God has a bet with the devil, basically, that he can take Job down and make him curse fate. He basically bets the devil that he can turn Job into Cain. And God says, the devil bets God that he can turn Job into Cain by tormenting him. And God says, no, Job's a good man. No matter what you do to him, he won't lose faith in being. That's essentially the bet. And you think, well, that's a hell of a thing for God to do.